Hey guys, welcome back to Four Eyes, the podcast series that gives you a clear view into the optometry world across Canada and the US.
We are your hosts. I'm Dr. Amrit Bilku.
I'm Dr. Deepan Kaur.
Hi, I'm Dr. Ravinder Randhawa.
And I'm Dr. Alex Kuhn.
Today's episode is sponsored by I-MED Pharma. I-MED Pharma is a Canadian company dating back to 1989 and specializes in dry eye diagnosis and management. I-MED Pharma is an awesome company that provides innovative ocular surface disease solutions to Canadian optometrists, ophthalmologists, and the global eye care community. Now, I-MED Pharma has a huge variety of dry eye products, including preservative-free artificial tears, eye masks, lid scrubs, omega supplements, and the E-EYE, which is an IRPL technological device. We asked I-MED Pharma to come on our podcast today and talk in depth about the E-EYE IRPL device. Because there's so much to talk about, this topic is actually going to be split into two parts. So today, in this episode, we'll be talking with Blair about the research behind IRPL, how it benefits dry eye patients with meibomian gland dysfunction, and how it compares to IPL. Stay tuned for part 2, which is coming out tomorrow, where we get into details about how to actually implement IRPL in your office and our personal reviews on the IRPL treatments that we had on ourselves thanks to I-MED Pharma. We hope you all really enjoy this episode, and don't forget to visit I-MED Pharma's website in the description box below to learn more. Blair, thank you so much for making the time to come out on our podcast. For any of our listeners who don't know about I-MED Pharma, would you mind telling us a bit more about the company and about you as part of the company?
Yeah, so I-MED Pharma is a Canadian dry eye focused company. We've been in the market, or we've been in Canada making medical devices for over 30 years now. We're well known for our drops and our dry eye drops, which are the eye drop, and the latest one, eye drop MGD, which is a really great success. The first kind of preserved, non-preserved, multi-dose drop with a lipid contained in it. So really, really fabulous drop. Lots of good feedback on that. And, we just continue to kind of develop new products for dry eye as we go forward. And we're really focused on the dry eye kind of market in Canada, and looking always to develop new products and new things to help patients with dry eye.
And that's why we brought I-MED onto our podcast, because we love, us three, Deepan, Rav, and I, love using the I-MED products for all of our dry eye patients and on ourselves. And we were really excited for Alex to actually get some samples of the products in Alaska. So
yeah,
definitely talk more about
I even have them here.
Oh.
Excellent. Yeah, I think the biggest thing with I-MED is that we're really focused on the kind of science side of things. So we don't necessarily go with the marketing things. We look at really the science approach, look at what works, understand what will work on patients, and really go kind of the science route without kind of all that marketing hype around it.
Yeah.
So that's really, and I think it pays off, and patients really see the difference in the end product. So I think you guys have tried them out, and like you said, you've used them quite a bit. And I don't know, Alex, your first time using them, what was your kind of feedback, or what was your reaction?
I did like them. I felt like it definitely did help, especially up here during this time of year. It's not very good with the dryness.
That's it. Canadian, it's great. It's a great climate for dry eye, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And exactly. So like the Northern Hemisphere, in Northern Canada, everywhere in Canada, pretty much during the winter, especially, so dry.
Especially Alberta. I feel like Alberta during the winter is some next level dryness. So I moved from Ontario to Alberta, and during the wintertime, my skin, my eyes, my skin like cracks. I have to like moisturize my skin twice a day, and I carry like the I-MED drops in my bag. I'm always putting drops in my eyes.
Well, we're going to dive into the first installment of this I-MED episode. So like you mentioned, I-MED is all about dry eye disease. And there's so many products that we could talk about all day about I-MED, but the IRPL device, the EI, is really what we want to dive into today with you. And so the EI, for all of our listeners, is the first medical device that uses IRPL technology, specifically designed to treat dry eyes due to meibomian gland dysfunction. So Blair, how does IRPL work and how is it different from IPL?
Yeah, so I would say, first off, this device has been on the market for over 5 years now outside of Canada, and just arrived in Canada this actually in 2020. And it's over 1,500 devices out there in the world, and used specifically for dry eye disease and meibomian gland disease. And really what's special about this device is the IRPL has kind of 3 modes of action, where most other IPLs have kind of 2 modes of action. So the first mode of action of most IPLs is kind of the heating aspect, so that when you're doing the light pulses, kind of light heating of the gland area in general. So that warming will kind of loosen up the meibum a little bit. The second kind of mode of action that most IPLs have is really the treatment of the inflammation. And that's what most kind of IPLs, main mode of action is the, as you know, dry eye disease is an inflammatory disease as well. So reducing the inflammation all around the eye area and all the whole system there kind of breaks that vicious circle that you get with dry eye disease, where the inflammation causes dry eye and the dry eye causes inflammation, and it's just a vicious circle. So that second mode of action, the reduction of the inflammation, really helps that kind of break that cycle. And then the third mode of action, which is unique to the EI device, is really the stimulation of the parasympathetic nervous system. So the parasympathetic nervous system that's right below your kind of eye is all connected to the meibomian glands. And by using the EI, you're stimulating that nervous system, and it really gets the meibomian glands working again. So if you kind of think about it, you've got the inflammation, you're reducing the inflammation, but if you don't really fix the root cause, which is the meibomian glands aren't working, you're going to end up with inflammation again. So what this does is you get a lot better longer term results with the EI, because you're fixing the inflammation, one, but then you're also fixing the whole system, which is getting the meibomian glands working again and pumping properly and expressing good meibum. And that gets you the longest kind of solution for a lot of the patients, and shown in many, many studies around the world. This is one of the devices that I think has been the most studied from an IPL point of view, or IRPL point of view. Very, very robust studies with people like Jennifer Craig, who's, if you look on the DEWS 2, she's one of the top person, in all the DEWS 2. Jennifer Craig has done 2 fantastic studies showing great results with this, where she's actually, her first study, she didn't believe the device worked. So she went out to prove that it wouldn't work, and actually was surprised at the results and amazed at the results. Had done a subsequent new study, just came out recently, where it was, very, very robust in terms of shams, in terms of the way that they went about the protocol, so that it was very, very high ethical and practice standards to kind of show that the device worked beyond a doubt. So very, very interesting from that point of view.
Yeah. Would you mind going a little bit more into detail about how does the IRPL activate the parasympathetic nervous system specifically, and how IPL might not do that action?
Yeah, so what it does is it's going, and your nervous system kind of runs underneath here. The actual how it's stimulating the nervous system, it's kind of heating up that nervous system, and it's in the pulses that they're using. So the specific pulses that they're choosing are kind of really going forward and activating that nervous system and getting it to kind of stimulate that nervous system. And actually, what's really interesting as well is that your nervous system, parasympathetic nervous system, runs the top and the bottom. Well, you have glands at the top and bottom, and it's kind of branched off on the side right here of your eyes. If you're not, I guess on the podcast you wouldn't see, but on the temporal kind of area, the branch kind of connects. And for the EI, you do 4 flashes on the lower orbital region, then 1 on the temporal side that actually connects the top and actually activates the top glands. which is really interesting. So you get actually full stimulation of all the glands and reduction of everything by the kind of temporal. So they did a bunch of tests early on showing that there was no real benefit to doing upper and lower lids with the EI. You could get as good and actually the same results with lower and just the temporal side. So there's 5 flashes in total when you're doing it on either side.
That makes so much more sense now, because every time my rep did the IRPL sessions on me, I always wondered why he flashed like my temple.
Exactly that. And
know.
it's the branch where kind of the lower and the upper connect, and you're really getting that upper lid to be able to activate. It's interesting that that's where you kind of think about it, and the upper lid, you're never actually flashing on the upper lid, but you're getting benefits from it. So which is there's a lot of things that we're still trying to understand all the different modes of action and how they're working behind the scenes, but the results really show for themselves that you're getting the benefit. When you look at tear breakup time, expression scores, you're looking at all those OSDI scores over time, the patients, you really see a huge benefit from that point of view.
So
Cool.
Blair, kind of going back to changing the function and the structure of the meibomian glands that you were talking about earlier, does IRPL have the ability to change the microstructure of the meibomian glands where atrophied glands can be regenerated?
Yeah, so that for sure. Well, from what we've seen so far, there is no way to get atrophied glands back. So once they're gone, they're gone. But what you do is for people that have a high percentage loss of glands, this will make the glands remaining work properly and work as much and as good as possible, so that you're expressing meibum and really being able to have that lipid layer across the surface of the tear that's so important for evaporation. So I think in many cases where people have a lot of loss, it's still a good alternative to really being able to get them to have meibum that's going to express properly from the remaining glands, is what we've seen a lot in the studies. I would say there's nothing really yet that has shown anything to bring back atrophied glands, unfortunately.
Yeah, we started doing a lot of lippy scans at one of our clinics, and that's a great way to show our patients the atrophied glands. And you tell them, be like, okay, these are the glands that are gone, and there's no way of bringing them back. So at least the ones you have, we can keep those, right? And I think it's a good way for them to understand, because when you tell them, oh, you have these glands on our eyelids, they can't picture it. Yeah. And when they see the pictures of those long glands and you compare it to the normal glands, then they're like, oh, wow, like my glands are bad.
Absolutely. Like I find with patients, you really have to show them the kind of data to be able to convince them, right? They say, oh yeah, my eyes feel tired, or they're feel gritty, or I have problems, I have to blink more, whatever it may be. I use drops a lot. But once you connect it with here's what this photo looks like of atrophied glands, here's what you are in terms of the scale, the put scale or whatever it might be. You're at 50% loss. Wow, that's scary. You've only got 50% left. You better take care of them. So that's one thing. Showing them tear breakup times, I find, is really good too, to be able to explain, here, you should be 10 seconds or above. Your tear is breaking up too quickly. You don't have the right meibum, being able to be expressed, that's going to keep it from evaporating within that time frame, and that's what's causing your dry eye. So being able to kind of relate, and dry eye disease, multifactorial disease, it gets complicated quick, but bringing it back to kind of the main key factors. Are you producing enough liquid? Is it aqueous deficiency, or is it evaporative? And kind of understanding and being able to explain them where they sit in kind of the dry eye spectrum, because it is, it's so varied. You can go from one edge to the other, and everybody's got some different portion of it in one aspect, and being able to explain it to them, I think is very important, especially when you've got to explain to them, here's a device it can be relatively expensive compared to other treatments, but will get you the benefits. And being able to then put them in a line in the sand, here's where you are today, we're going to start the treatments, and then show them how they progress as well, which is really, I think, important in this, tear breakup time. That's one thing where doing a meibography at the beginning, from the beginning to the end, it won't change, the meibography won't change, but your tear breakup time will go up. So you'll be able to show them here from the beginning, you were at maybe 4 seconds or 3 seconds tear breakup time, and now you're at 11. You're past that kind of dry spectrum. So we've improved it, or expressibility score, whatever it may be. I think it's really important to show that as well.
Oh man, if my tear breakup time could be 10 seconds.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is performing meibomian gland expression after each treatment necessary?
It's not necessary, but I think in what we've seen from a lot of the studies and in many of our people that have them in Canada now using them, you get a bit better results quicker. In terms of if it's just say a regular patient, if you weren't to express, you're still going to get the results. But that first and second treatment, I think, is where it really helps to do the expression. And most of the time we just say, yeah, express at the same time. It's not going to hurt anything. If you're doing, a lot of the EI studies, some of them were done without expressing to show specifically that the EI worked without expressing, to show that the device was specifically working and there was no other influence in it. But it doesn't mean in your practice you should do that necessarily. I would say put everything on your side, especially people with MGD. Usually their meibomian glands are clogged. There's issues there. Expressing them is only going to kind of help that progression quicker and get them flowing again. So I think it's a good practice to express, glands while you're doing the treatments.
I feel like that would also help with like instant relief too, and like instant results. So that also helps them realize, oh yeah, it actually is doing something for me.
Absolutely, yeah. They'll feel the difference. Well, even with the EI, the first couple of treatments, you'll feel the benefit, kind of like Deepan was saying. You'll notice that, hey, I don't need to put drops in as much anymore. So you get that kind of instant treatment. The difference, and we were talking about the 3 different treatments are really important, because the first treatment, sometimes it won't last necessarily that long, and you need to do all 3 kind of, let's call them sessions. You need to do the 3 sessions, and that's really the treatment. So 3 to 4 sessions, and the first treatment, I depending on the patient, could last a couple days to maybe a week. You come back 2 weeks after, it'll last a little bit longer that next time, and then the third treatment, you can get 9 to 12 months of kind of benefits out of it. And some patients, we always tell the doctors, you do the third treatment, bring the patient back after 30 days. After that third treatment, do the same round of tests, do your tear breakup time, look at all the scoring, look at the OSDI, and then decide if you do a 4th treatment. There's no harm in doing a 4th treatment. And a lot of patients, you'll do the 4th treatment as well. And it really shows kind of extending that benefits out.
Based on the severity of the patient's dry eye disease and their MGD, right now the EI device is technically used, like you just mentioned, 3 sessions. So day 1, typically day 15, and then day 45. Can you do those treatments? Is it beneficial to do those treatments earlier for like the more severe dry eyes, or is everyone kind of receiving the exact same treatment schedule, no matter their severity?
Yeah, so I haven't seen any changes in kind of that protocol. I would say, there's always a few days here or there depending on scheduling, right? But all the patients, there's no kind of different protocol based on your severity. So you keep that same day 1, day 15, day 45, and then I would say some patients, maybe you'll add on a 4th treatment, kind of 30 days after that third one, and depending on how they come out after that third one, you may want to do another one and see if it does improve from there.
Okay. So should preservative-free artificial tears, heated masks, and omega supplementation still be used during the treatment in order to get optimal results, or
I would say Yeah, I would say it's with any treatment, those kind of things are good, right? That's like the brushing of the teeth every day. You want to keep using those kind of tears when you need them, and it may be only when you need them instead of on a regular basis. You may not need them as much. The lid wipes and kind of the mask is always a great thing to do. I think the lid wipes is really just going to keep those glands clean. Keep the blepharitis if there is down. If there is Demodex, you can use the tea tree oil wipes. That's going to keep that in check. So all those things are good to keep doing at the same time as doing any treatment. Omegas, continuously. It's only going to extend those benefits out and kind of maintain the kind of well-being in the ocular surface from that side. And like a preservative-free drop like eye drop MGD, perfect for patients that are doing this type of a treatment, because it does have that lipid layer and will kind of enhance the lipid layer, bring everything together and kind of help out anything to do with MGD.
So Blair, getting back to IPL, so IPL is known to improve skin texture and tone and reduce fine lines and skin discoloration, along with improving dry eye signs and symptoms. So does IRPL offer these particular cosmetic benefits as well?
Yeah, absolutely. We call them side effects in this case. So you get the side effects of improved kind of skin, reducing fine lines and wrinkles. That mode of action is very similar if it's an IRPL or IPL. So you're getting those kind of side effect benefits, if you want to call them, from the IRPL as well.
Okay. I was going to mention that actually right now. That just came up to my mind. So after my second IRPL treatment, I did.
Don't say you're going to you lost wrinkles or something. No. Right? Like my wrinkle,
the youngest one.
But even my fiance was like, your skin looks like it's really brightened. And I had no idea. I just didn't even think about the IRPL. And I was like, no, I haven't. I've been wearing sunscreen. I was like, maybe. But now that you mentioned that, yeah, because my under eyes were not as dark actually after the second session. I think our listeners will definitely appreciate our reviews, because we're very honest with our reviews, right? Even though we did receive the IRPL treatments at no cost, thankfully to I-MED Pharma. But Deepan's experience that everyone will listen to at the next episode, where we go into a lot more detail as to why we felt this way and how. But Deepan's dryness was pretty mild, so she did get really good benefits. And I think for me, my dry eye symptoms are caused. It's very multifactorial too. There's so
that is dry eye, right?
Yeah.
Right?
That is a definition.
Dry eye without multifactorial, right? So
if you open up the textbook on dry eye and all the etiologies, every single one, you just check off, and I have 10 of them. So I think the IRPL definitely, I felt changes, just not long term, but it the changes that I felt, they're definitely there. They're definitely there. But
but good point, because this is not you have to be an MGD patient for this to get benefit. Somebody with aqueous deficiency or problems with their lacrimal gland, it's not going to solve that problem. Yeah. And that's it's very clearly
impressed after that the second treatment. I was like, whoa, I'm so moisturized right now. I can't feel my eyelids. It's so nice. But I'm not really, MGD is not really my main issue. And so the benefits weren't as long lasting, but I'm really looking forward to the third treatment. So yeah.
Absolutely. It's super important with any treatment, doesn't matter what it is really make sure that treatment is targeted for the patient's symptoms and signs. And that's super important, because this device is really targeted. It's specific for MGD. It's really to get those glands working again and have that kind of mode of action. It's not going to be there it's not going to start your tear production. There's lots of other devices that kind of will do that in terms of, or drugs or different things like that. So, you have to really make sure when you're recommending it to somebody, you have to really make sure that you go through that kind of that I call it the fault tree. You look through and kind of figure out where do they fall in terms of patients, and then okay, this is a good candidate.
What if a patient has a painful sty and wants to clear it up immediately? Can 1 to 2 IRPL treatments accomplish that?
Yeah, so this is something that's kind of new with IRPL, and looking at how kind of like chalazions and different things like that, how you can treat it. But it kind of makes sense because one of the mode of actions that I talked about is inflammation reduction, right? So you're if you're using it to kind of chalazions and styes and different things like that, you're trying to reduce the inflammation. You oftentimes use drugs to be able to do that as well. But using the IRPL on that sty will kind of do the same benefit. And we're seeing lots of different people using it. It's not necessarily let's call it what Health Canada has approved it for, but listen,
like
it's working
use.
a little bit off label, but if you think about the mode of action and just interpret it that way, I think it's a great use for that those type of people and those patients. And a lot of patients, that it's a painful thing happening, and they want it solved as quick as possible. So it's a great alternative.
Yeah. Well, Blair, thank you so much. You actually answered all of our questions that we had and more about the EI device and just what IRPL is in general, because I think, a lot of people are probably seeing this all over, the marketing materials, Instagram, websites, and it's sometimes hard for us to really see what's the real difference between IPL and IRPL. So this talk today was excellent, just in explaining what it does and what benefits it can give to our patients. Is there anything else that you want to add for our listeners to learn about IRPL that we may not have mentioned just yet?
I think we've gone through almost everything. I think really the key is that this device, the EI device, the IRPL device, has been around for many years outside of Canada. So 5 years, has great results in terms of clinical trials that have been very, very robust. So when you're looking to choose, a device like this for your practice to be able to help those MGD patients, I think this one is one of the best choices in terms of being able to get the results that you need really continuously. And it's been proven to do so around the world. And now in Canada, a lot of people getting great benefits from it.
Yeah, definitely. And now us too.
There you go. There you go. Well, I'm glad.
Blair,
I'm glad
before you go,
try.
I actually have one question. Sorry to add it in last minute, but
Sure.
just wanted to know, what are some main contraindications for somebody that can get IRPL?
Yeah, so I would just say in terms of the you want to just make sure the Fitzpatrick scale, they're inside the kind of extreme end is you're not able to do that with any IRPL, unfortunately. And then other than that, it's there are some drug contraindications in terms of drugs that do create kind of enhanced,
like the anti-anxiety. I know some anti-anxiety drugs were on it.
Correct. In terms of like their
photosensitive?
Photosensitive drugs as well.
Yeah.
So you need to just a lot of times it's talking with the GP or whoever it is that prescribed those to make sure that it's okay, or going off of those type of things for a little bit if they need to. You can find out as well, just like retinol. You don't want to have retinol on the skin when you're doing it, but you can definitely just not have it on that day or a day before and go about doing it. But things like that, it's very minor. I mean, in terms of the contraindications, and the EI is extremely safe. Very, very low risk of burning the skin or anything like that. A lot of the IPL devices were designed for dermatology use originally, and a lot higher kind of output of energy. So you really need to make sure that you have the dial set properly. Whereas the EI is very, very simple to set. It's there's basically select the skin type, and you go. So it's super simple from that side. I don't know if you guys notice that when you're using it. It's really easy to get trained on. You don't need to necessarily. You can have, a lot of the staff doing this as well. It doesn't need to be.
We talk a lot about this. Don't say more, Blair, because for listeners have to listen to our next episode on this because we do speak with Terrence from I-MED Pharma, who goes more into detail about how you can actually obtain this device, how you can start implementing it in your practice, how much you can charge for the treatments, how you can train your staff, how you can market all of this for your clinic, your website. Then we go into real details about our personal experience about it. So yeah, don't say more. I'm going to cut you off right
Great
there.
great segue to the next episode. So stay tuned, everybody.
Yes. But thank you again, Blair, for coming on. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. This was fun.
Thank you to everyone for listening to 4 Eyes. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to subscribe and leave us a rating to give us feedback on how we're doing. You can also check us out on Instagram at 4 Eyes Optom for more content. Look out for new episodes every Wednesday. So until then, stay tuned.